Alright, I just finished watching part 4, I think episodes 7 and 8 of the Bible, and this episodes 7 and 8 are all about Jesus and his ministry. And you've no doubt heard all these stories, and anything you're thinking about from like the stories of Jesus, like him raising Lazarus from the dead and all that, they're probably in here. So, episode 7, Mission, the summary is, Jesus and his disciples move from town to town, preaching love and forgiveness, but this radical approach is not welcomed by everyone. Jesus' miracles grow increasingly wondrous until he conquers death itself, raising Lazarus from the tomb. Okay, so this episode, the last episode left off with Jesus has begun to recruit his followers. And this episode basically picks up on that. And it starts off, let's see, where does it start off? Just watched it and I can't remember where it starts off. But it has a bunch of different miracles in it. And the miracles are really cool to see. Not that him teaching and all that isn't really cool to see. That's really awesome. But like the miracles, that's some cool stuff. Like, you see him raise Lazarus from the dead, and that's really cool to see. You see Jesus walking on water. You see, let's see. I just watched it. I can't think of them immediately. But this episode, I think this episode might actually be my favorite. Well, again, I'm always thinking of them in parts, like, because they were aired weekly. So episodes 7 and 8 are probably my favorites because they're all about Jesus and all about his ministry and his teachings and all the miracles that he performed. It's probably my favorites. That's probably my favorite part of the whole thing because you get to see all this come to life because you've heard you've heard the basic stories of the Bible about Jesus and all the stuff he did. Now you actually get to see it come to life on this because like my dad said it in one of these reviews, we're very visually oriented, and this helps a lot in visualizing exactly what took place. So it's very cool to see. Alright, let's see the next episode. This episode is the biggest cliffhanger ever. Betrayal. Jesus arrives in Jerusalem openly declaring that he is the promised Messiah. High priest Caiaphas fears that impassioned crowds will start a riot, so he finds a way to get to Jesus through Judas. At the Last Supper, Jesus tells his disciples that one of them will betray him. They can only watch as Jesus is arrested and led away. So this episode, it starts off again with the ministry, but the real point of this episode is to get across that Judas betrays Jesus. Now, Jesus comes into Jerusalem, and he's preaching at the temple daily, or up until Passover, but then one of the Roman soldiers, I forget his name, but he says to Caiaphas, Judas has come to me, and he has offered to help us. Caiaphas says, oh, that's going to be useful. So Judas starts giving them information about Jesus, and while all this is going on, Jesus is still preaching and performing miracles. So at the Last Supper, a very iconic moment in the Bible, Jesus tells his disciples that that this is their last meal together before he is killed. Now the disciples don't even know how to respond to this. They just sit there in awe, thinking, how can, you're the Messiah, you're not supposed to die. But then he says something that none of them were expecting. That one of the 12 disciples that have known Jesus for the past 3 years and have followed him, left everything to follow him, one of them is going to betray him. Now, this just puts them over the edge, and they're thinking, who's it going to be? So Jesus takes some bread, and he says, whoever eats this is going to be the one who betrays me. And this guy right here, Judas, he eats the bread. Jesus says to him, do it quickly, and Judas gets out of that room as fast as he can. So Jesus and the disciples head to the Garden of Gethsemane, and Jesus begins to pray, and he says to the disciples, the spirit is ready, but the flesh is weak. So, while he's praying, the Roman soldiers with Judas come to him, and they're there to take him away. Peter attempts to fight them back. He cuts off, again, I can't remember his name. It's the same soldier that told Caiaphas that Judas was going to help them. He cuts off his ear, and Jesus says to Peter, "Those who live by the sword shall die by the sword." So Peter just drops the sword. And Jesus heals the soldier's ear, and Jesus is led away. Now, they arrested him at night because Jesus had a lot of followers, and they didn't want to cause any disruption amongst his followers. They didn't want to make them cause a riot so close to Passover. So they arrested him at night in secret. And they had his trial at night as well. So Caiaphas goes to Jesus, and he says, "Does the Messiah have anything to say?" And so Jesus basically says, "I am who they say I am. I am the Messiah." And then, so Caiaphas just loses it. He tears his clothes. He says, "This is blasphemy." That's their favorite word. Blasphemy is the Pharisees' favorite word. But he accuses Jesus of blasphemy. And this is where it ends. He says, "Your sentence is death." The camera closes up on the face of Jesus, and then it ends. I didn't see this when it actually aired. I saw it the day after. I think I saw it the day after. I saw it the day after it aired, and I sat there like, why would you end it there? Are you kidding me? But it leads to a pretty awesome finale. Alright, that was part 4 of my review of the Bible.